we are making the first foundation here for, it's called obviously section A here, for the ice blue quilt. And I put my colors here on it just so that it reminds me as I go about. And I pre-fold everything so that it's just easier to fold once I get it there. Much easier this way, in my opinion. One of the reasons I love the freezer paper. So in this, I have put my first piece on and I just fused that down. So you always fuse this shiny side to your fabric, and as you can see, it sticks really well. So the next step that you have is you end up, I'll do it here for A2, and I will work both two sides at once just because it saves my cutting. So what I'll do here is I will trim right here to make sure this is 1/4 of an inch, and then I'll flip it over on this side and trim it to 1/4 of an inch. So I'm always working opposite sides, and we'll come right back here and we'll put our first pieces on. Now you may be wondering, why didn't I just put the exact size on there? Yeah, well, my aim is not that good, and if yours is, then you can cut it to the exact size. But most people, their aim is not that good, which is why we overcut them just a little bit, so it makes your life a little easier. Now I do guesstimate here between the sizes, you know, to see if I've got them approximately right. You can fold it in half and do all that stuff to make it perfect, but that takes more time and they're oversized, so you don't need to be perfect. So we're going to sew on this side. And then flip it over here, and I'm going to sew it on this side. There we go. So, there we go. Now that I have both of those, I will finger press these open, and then I will go over and use my hot iron to fuse them down here. As you can see, I've fused them down. Next step, I'm going to fold again here. Peel it off just gently here. Now I will be able to use just this one template for all 13 pieces of this, because the great thing about this freezer paper is it is reusable. It's one of the reasons I like it so much. Okay, so I'm going to go trim these two sides up next. Okay, now you may be going, okay, how are you trimming these up exactly? Well, I just stick my ruler right here on the edge, and then I line my 1/4 inch right up along the edge of the foundation and clean up the line. It's really just that simple. Do you have to use like an add 1/4 ruler or any of that? If you want, go ahead. I don't, but that's just me. So I try and keep things relatively simple. So now we'll add these two here. And again, these might be a little more difficult to eyeball the middle. If you ever have any questions, kind of one of the nice things here is you know that this is the corner you're going to be lining up against. So you can always line up on that. Again, just eyeballing, because we've got a lot of extra fabric on here. Not too much, but enough. So like I said, I work two sides at a time just because these are, you know, literally opposites of each other. Put this piece on next. And again, I'm going to kind of aim at this corner here. Right, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but that's about right. All right, and I can see that I've, you know, just about centered it between these two, so you can use these two as centers as well. But you're going to aim it up in between. Again, you could fold it to really mark the middle. I don't. Okay. So again, I'm going to press this open like this onto my freezer paper. I'll be right back. All right, we've pressed this on here. And now you can see this one's a little loose, so I could press it down a little bit more so it's not quite as loose, which I probably will do. But now we're going to fold this back here, and I'm going to trim on this side, and then I'm going to fold it back on this side and trim on this side. Okay, now you want to make sure that you're 1/4 inch out. So you know, right now this is nice because my little seam is right there. See, that fast. So we've trimmed this out. Now we're going to put our next piece on here, which are these right here. And again, these are all just triangles that have been, literally they're from squares that I have cut once on the diagonal because I know how big they need to be. Okay, so this first one's going to go on. Like usual, we just line up line up the pressed edges, or the cut edges here. There we go. And I keep my line right here so that if you're looking carefully, I've got a little spot there that I'm aiming between. As you can see a little closer, I'm just aiming between these two. And I'm not sewing on the freezer paper, I'm sewing right along the edge of the fold. Okay. Now we're going to fold and do the same thing on this side. Add this piece here. You may ask, have I done any sort of, I've pressed these a little. I have not pressed them a lot. I have not washed them in advance, and I have not added any additional starch, just so you know. Okay, so now I am going to fold these open. I'm going to go press these again to my freezer paper, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. So we have trimmed on both sides here, okay? And now we're going to sew these next pieces on, which are right here. So we're going to sew these on from where we've trimmed, and it's nice because you know wherever the dog ears are not is where we're adding our pieces. Okay, so we're going to add this one on here. Line that edge up. Okay. One. Now we're going to flip it over and do the opposite side. Okay. Now what we'll do is we'll open these up. So, okay, we're going to press these down and then do the opposite sides. Alrighty, so I've gone ahead and trimmed these up already. Add these next two pieces here. Oops. Now I tend to line them up on one side like this, and then I tend to just hold them together and flip it over. It just makes it easier sometimes. Okay, oops, sorry about that. And now we're going to do the same on this side. Again, just working opposite sides at the same time, or, you know, right after each other. So it saves me a few steps of flipping and trimming and whatnot. So it's almost like doing them, you know, when you do strip piecing or chain piecing. Okay. And again, open this up, press these out, and trim the edges. All right. right, we're on the last two pieces to add on here. So we're going to add these two purple ones on here. There we go. And as you can see, we try to center them here a little bit. Just come over here a little. There we go. Pulled out. And now I'm going to come over here to the opposite side. Again, lining up my edges. Flip this over like so. There we go. Just like that. Now we'll press this again like this, and then we'll do our final trim. So for our final trim here, we're just going to put our little line up here on the line on our template. Line those up. And you know, I line it up with the seam line, not the edge of the fabric or edge of the template, because I could accidentally cut a little bit of that off each time, and then my pieces would keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and that would not be a good thing. So we just want to make sure that we have these on the edges here. We pull these together like this. Trim the edges just a little bit. There. There. And then the last little bit over here. And voila. Yeah, we just got some, what some people call crumbs. It's all on this here. Beauty is, this will peel right off. Oops. Sometimes it sticks a little better than you think. Okay, this is ready for reuse. You can always take your fingernail and pull a little of the lint off if you want. But here's our piece with beautiful, beautiful points. No guesswork involved.